Now, it is no secret that you are what many consider to be on the left. And by left, we're not talking about liberal. What is one of the things that you think that the left would need to improve on in order to have a more cohesive message and actions in order to change this country?
It's a good question, and I want to start by saying, some of the members of the group consider themselves Marxists, and some of them don't. And I want to be clear: Right Brain as a website completely ignores the left-right paradigm. But for the sake of discussion, we'll put the paradigm in. But we tend to say we're anti-imperialist because we want to let people know everybody's welcome on this side. I don't care if you're from Russia, I don't care if you're from China, I don't care if you're from the left or the right. We've had conservatives come on the website, liberty. Anybody that wants, art has no borders. There's no gates there. This is the one opportunity with art where there's, it's the only part of the world where there's no man-made borders, and we can connect from different perspectives. But for the sake of the discussion, I consider myself anti-imperialist, and I consider myself, I would say my politics skew to the left, labor rights and things like that, and not big on programs to help people and all that kind of stuff. I think for me, my understanding of that paradigm just shifted a lot as I've gotten older and started to wonder, what does the left really mean? Because you see a lot of people that say they're left, and it's like they're not doing any of the things that history's shown us that the left would need to do. Like, we've already seen that they're going to put their thumb on the scale every election. And, Bernie was one of the most popular politicians in history. Now they're trying to do a Marianne Williamson thing. And it's like, we're going to need more people. Now we got to go after people. You should go after people that don't vote. But for me, one thing I think is to completely reject the two-party system. I know it's scary. It's scary to vote outside of that in an election where LGBT rights can be on the line. I know someone could say you're privileged, but it's a Band-Aid when you think about it. You're talking about a party that's leading us to a nuclear war. So you might have abortion rights for a year, and then when you're vaporized in a nuclear holocaust, it's not really going to matter, is it? So this is a precipice right now. And the other thing is, the third parties are never going to have a shot if every election it's the same through line of like, oh, if you don't vote for this, you're a fascist and you're aiding this. And it's like, when is third party ever going to get the 5% they need to get funding? When are they going to be able to get on a debate stage? Like, you have to build it. Anything that's worth doing is going to take some time to build. But I think the left, I think they do need to be more welcoming of outsider people they don't agree with. We need to come together on things we do agree on. This is a time right now with how much poverty, where you're starting to see people from different political aisles who have voted, who have had to choose between the two-party duopoly and maybe chose different than you did. But just the same way, somebody will vote for Joe Biden because they think he's going to be more friendly on LGBT or a couple things. But he may he may cause people to die in Palestine. He may cause people to die in the Middle East. He may coup countries and cause destruction in his wake, but he will give you what you want. Those same people on the other side are in an impossible situation where they're like, yeah, Trump is probably going to be doing this and this. It's bad, but he's going to do this thing that I like. And we have to completely break that idea of the lesser of two evils. Evil is evil. There's no lesser of two evils. If you vote for Joe Biden and he gives you LGBT, somebody else is going to suffer, and that's probably going to be the Palestinian people. But then I think that the left as well, the infighting is just out of control. I love the sharing of ideas, but like, talk about a cultural echo. A lot of left media or even independent media has become a lot of just sniping over things that are, it's great to share ideas, but that's not like really what I see. I see it's like sniping over things like, and you see channels, and I will say, you see channels like the Vanguard. And to me, those channels are kind of representation of capitalism, because when you're paid for clicks, you're going to do things for clicks. And so now you're doing the exact same thing that you hated the media for. You're shifting your content around clicks over casting a light on things that are really important. But for me, I don't know if I can sum up exactly what the left needs to do. But one thing they could definitely do is start working with people you don't agree with. One of the reasons Chris Small's unionizing worked is because he even said, I didn't ask people when they showed up, who'd you vote for? I said, you agree with me on union rights? All right, let's come together. If you look at those massive crowds you saw in Europe saying abolish NATO, do you think that there was a guy out there asking who people voted for or what they agree with on this issue? And no, it was like, if you agree on this, let's get out in the street. And for me, like, if you can't do that, if you can't sit with people you don't agree with, we're fucked. We're fucked.
Yeah. I'll put it to you like this. There are many people who had varying differences of opinions during the George Floyd protests. And yet it was the largest protest in the streets that we've seen in American history. That it's so big that it reached out to different corners of the world. The only gripe that I had with the George Floyd protest was, number one, they did have a demand and they did have the numbers, but they did not punish, and they weren't willing to punish the powers that be for not adhering to the demands that were made. That's the one thing. But at the same time, you still had a lot of people who may have had varying different types of opinions. And the goal of being able to come together on this singular issue is that a humanizing takes place. And what is that humanization? That means there may be somebody who has some problematic views. Let's say I'm a gay man. Somebody may have some homophobic type of ideology within them. But if they see that I am coming together for against war, just like they are, and then they start talking to me, then they start to see me as more of a human. And then it's like, well, you're not like the rest of them. And I'm like, well, what do you mean by we're not like the rest of them? And then they start talking about how they got all these ideas from the people at the top who are trying to divide. And then they start to realize, oh, wait, they're using me as a tool to keep division. And then they start to realize that some of these differences are really a divisiveness in order to keep us divided so that we don't actually go up against the establishment, because the establishment is what's really keeping us apart so that we don't come together. Because, look, I'll put it to you like this way. If I put two fingers together here, not that much power. Two fingers together here, not that much power. I can put the thumb and the index finger together, that much power. But if I start to put it all together, right, then I can knock somebody's ass out. So the thing is that we have to get to a point where the pinky doesn't do and has the same type of effect or power as maybe an index finger or thumb. But as long as we can come together on the things that we agree on, then it can actually have power. One of the reasons why we don't put up one finger when we're marching, we always put up the fist when we're marching, is because the fist is what's powerful.
I love that. I love that. It's a better way of saying the old thing of what's better, what's stronger, 5 armies or 1 army. And most people say 5, and the answer is 1. 1 united army or movement over 5 different staggered movements. 1 movement over, like you said, unifying, coming together. I think that's a very apt way to put it. I mean, it's like you said, if you do get out there in the street with people you don't like over something you do agree on, like you said, they're going to be like, wow, I thought that you were someone I couldn't agree with. That maybe I need to relook at some of that stuff. And we've seen it with our film work. There's like the Rome doc. It's like, wait a minute, maybe I was wrong because this person is speaking to me. Rome didn't have to say that he wanted to come together with white militias, some that might be racist. I mean, that's shocking. That was shocking for some people that watched it. And I'm sure some people didn't like that. But I think some people, not even racist people, just, I mean, people who maybe don't think they have a lot in common with her might have said, wow, wait a minute. Maybe I didn't look at this as closely as I should have. And like you said, maybe that human, I think it humanized Rome a lot. And so at the end of the day, this is a person. I mean, the tactic of dividing, I mean, you even think right after slaves were freed, and we're trying to integrate back into a society that had largely rejected them and sold them as property. It was very common before Jim Crow divided people up for people who, you know, at that time, I'm sure most people were fucking racist coming right off slavery and what that connotation was and what that the sort of cultural consciousness of that was. And society completely dominated by white people. I'm sure seeing people that were former slaves moving in that were once property initially, I'm sure, and even now we see it. But what was powerful was at that time, if you look at history, there was a short period where people who were formerly slaves and working class whites realized that if they came together, they'd have all the voting power. You combine these groups and you can basically run the table. And for a while they did. They were voting people out left and right and putting people in power that were going to be best for them, because what they could agree on was they want to feed their families. They want to have put their head at the end of the day. These basic survival needs that we agree on. And it took Jim Crow to start dividing people up and saying, like, you know, they needed to divide us up because they don't divide us up, they're fucked. I mean, that's the only thing. That's the last gasp of power that these people have, is the media, how would, saying if you like this person, don't talk to this person, he's a racist. Like Jimmy says, and I agree with it, is don't talk to your neighbor. That's the worst thing you could do, is talk to your neighbor. And they loved COVID for that very reason. It was a great chance to divide people up. Just another issue to put that wedge in. If we could get working class people from different sides of the aisle to come together on certain things, we could absolutely run the table, and then we can have a real democracy and debate. Then we can get these puppets out of power that are completely ruled by the oligarchs. I mean, it's shameful. Our government, the things that they do are the things they lock people up for. Our government's the number one drug pushers in the world, with with the Sacker family selling legalized heroin, the gun runners of the world with Raytheon. All the vices is what they cash in on, and they do it. I mean, if drug dealing and gun running is illegal and weapons dealing, these people should all be in prison. I mean, I always say the lunatics are running the asylum at this point.
Yeah, well, the supervillains are running the world right now. So yeah.